It spends most of its life tucked into pockets, sitting on office desks, or rolling around inside drawers, yet almost nobody stops to wonder why it works so effortlessly. Every smooth signature, handwritten note, or quick sketch depends on a surprisingly precise mechanism hidden inside something that costs less than a cup of coffee. Beneath its simple exterior lies a carefully engineered system of ink, gravity, and rolling metal that has been refined over decades to deliver consistent writing with minimal effort. But what exactly is the anatomy of a ballpoint pen? And how do all of its tiny parts work together to create one of history's most successful everyday inventions? Let's find out right here on History of Simple Things. For thousands of years, writing was far less convenient than it is today. Ancient civilizations relied on reeds, brushes, or sharpened quills dipped into liquid ink. Later came metal nib pens, which still required frequent dipping into ink bottles. Fountain pens improved the process by storing ink inside the pen itself, but they introduced new challenges. Their water-based ink could leak, smudge, or dry out if not properly maintained, and changes in air pressure often caused unexpected spills during travel. By the early 20th century, people wanted something simpler, something that could write quickly, require almost no maintenance, and work on a wider variety of surfaces. Solving that problem would eventually lead inventors to rethink the pen from the very tip inward. The breakthrough came from an idea that seemed almost too simple to work. Instead of allowing ink to flow directly through a nib, what if a tiny metal ball could both hold the ink back and release it only while writing? Earlier inventors experimented with the concept during the late 19th century, but the available inks were either too thin or dried too quickly. It wasn't until the 1930s that Hungarian journalist Laszlo Biro noticed that newspaper ink dried much faster than fountain pen ink without smearing. Working with his brother Georgi, a chemist, he developed a thicker ink and paired it with a precisely fitted rotating ball. As the ball rolled across paper, it picked up ink from inside the pen while simultaneously applying it onto the page. The modern ballpoint pen had finally become practical. Although every ballpoint pen looks slightly different, nearly all share the same basic anatomy. The most important component sits at the very front, the tip assembly. Inside its tiny metal socket rests a perfectly polished ball, usually made from tungsten carbide because it is extremely hard and highly resistant to wear. The ball itself measures less than a millimeter across in many pens and rotates freely within its housing. Its fit is incredibly precise, tight enough to prevent ink from leaking continuously, yet loose enough to roll smoothly over paper. As it turns, one side contacts the ink reservoir, while the other transfers a thin, controlled layer of ink onto the writing surface. In a single movement, the ball acts as both a valve and an applicator. Behind the tip lies the ink reservoir, often called the refill or cartridge. Unlike fountain pen ink, ballpoint ink is thick, oil-based, and highly viscous. That thickness is essential because it prevents the ink from flowing uncontrollably, while allowing the rotating ball to pull out only the amount needed for writing. Manufacturers carefully balance pigments, dyes, solvents, and resins to produce ink that dries quickly after reaching paper while remaining stable inside the pen for years. As ink is gradually used, air enters the cartridge to replace its volume, preventing a vacuum from forming. This simple system allows even inexpensive pens to write thousands of meters before running out, making them remarkably efficient despite their low cost. The rest of the pen may seem less important, but every piece serves a purpose. The barrel protects the refill and provides a comfortable grip, whether made from lightweight plastic or durable metal. Retractable pens include a spring that pushes the refill forward when the button is clicked and pulls it safely back inside when pressed again. That familiar clicking mechanism usually relies on a small cam system that locks and unlocks the refill with alternating presses. Many pen caps contain a pocket clip for convenience, and modern caps sold in many countries also include ventilation holes. These openings were introduced as a safety feature to reduce the risk of complete airway blockage if a cap is accidentally swallowed, especially by children. Now that every part comes together, the brilliance of the ballpoint pen becomes clear. None of its components is especially complicated on its own, but each depends on the others to function properly. The precise ball would fail without the right ink, the ink would leak without the carefully machined tip, and the refill would be useless without a barrel to protect it. Because the design is inexpensive to manufacture, reliable in countless environments, and capable of writing on many different paper types, it quickly became the world's most widely used writing instrument. Decades after its invention, engineers have refined materials, improved manufacturing precision, and developed smoother inks. Yet the pen's fundamental anatomy remains almost unchanged, because the original concept solved the problem so effectively. The next time you pick up a ballpoint pen, it's worth remembering that you're holding far more than a disposable office supply. Hidden inside is the result of centuries of improvements in writing technology and decades of engineering refinement packed into something that fits in your pocket. Every click, every line, and every signature depends on tiny parts working together with remarkable precision. It's easy to overlook objects we use every day simply because they feel ordinary, but sometimes the simplest inventions reveal the most thoughtful design. And perhaps that's what makes the humble ballpoint pen so fascinating. It quietly reminds us that great engineering often hides in the smallest everyday things. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.